enough. I have waited 8 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever it is. I need a verdict.
There's no way you're going to get through today without a verdict. To next week's 4th of July week, there's no way that the jury, and I understand that they need to, thoroughly go through everything and do their due diligence, but they all want this over too, right? Like, they're not going to go through a whole weekend and then come back on Monday.
Do you think that they are going through everything? I mean, they were there every day for 8 or 9 weeks. They weren't sequestered. You're telling me that none of those people going home every night looked anything up on the interwebs? Or,
of course they did.
Or spoke to anybody else about it or any, do you think,
Here's what I think's going on. If you believe that the McAlberts were capable of all of this, and it appears they may have been, then there's
Curtis,
nothing.
about point for you.
That there's nothing they can't do in terms of whether it's reaching out to people or pressuring people. I mean, the fact that Albert was in that room with the closing statements was bizarre. Like, I don't know, but I thought this would have been decided day 2 early.
Does this change your mindset because it's going so long that it could be a potential guilty verdict?
Well,
I don't think so.
I think it would be more like a hung jury.
Yeah.
Which means that you could try it again.
Right. But why is it hung? Because some people believe.
There are 1 or 2 that believe, or whatever the number is.
Right.
That are holding out on either side, I guess. I mean, the prevailing wisdom was that the quicker the verdict, the better it was for the defendant, Karen Reed. But there are cases where a jury has taken a long time to deliberate and has still returned a not guilty verdict. So,
I feel like based on what you guys talk about, those usually are when there's a lot of evidence and there's a lot of back and forth. They could have did it. But it seems like based on listening to you guys talk about this case, there's really been no evidence against her except for the couple of EMT workers who said they overheard her saying, I hit him.
Also, I'm sorry. I know that this has been a long journey for the jury, but to call it quits at 3:30 yesterday.
Well, I mean, somebody
make it $50 a day.
No, that was 2 days ago. Somebody had a commitment.
Somebody had an obligation or something.
But then yesterday, that wasn't the case, and they called it at 3:30. I just, come on, let's
make it $50 a day. You think they want to be there for 12 hours?
But at the same time, there's only so much deliberating you can do if one person clearly won't change their point of view.
You've been on a jury before.
As someone who has been in a jury room deliberating for more than a day.
What was the charge? At the jury, are you allowed to speak about it? I think you are.
I can speak about it vaguely. Yeah,
vaguely.
You're allowed to talk about it once it's over.
Yeah, make it up in his head.
I had this argument.
It was an OUI.
I had this discussion with Julia Hill one time because Julia Hill is the greatest rule follower ever in the history of rule followers, and she was on a jury trial and would not give me any of the information. I needed the information immediately.
Yeah, it was.
But
it was
you can talk about it afterwards.
It was a Dewey charge. That's all.
Okay.
And so.
So you were deliberating. How long did you deliberate?
So I think
were you
done.
Were you named the foreperson?
I was. I had to deliver the result.
Wow.
Did you campaign to be the foreperson?
No, I was given because I was the first juror selected, Greg. It was awful. I was like, oh, I'm getting out of this.
They're like, the defense is like, let's pick a guy who looks like he's probably driven drunk before. Shime, you're number 1.
They literally were like, that guy. I was the first person they called up. We're like, we want that guy. And I was like, oh, great, here we go. But yes, I was the foreperson, and so I had to deliver the result.
What was it?
We said not guilty.
Wow.
Was there a lot of back and forth, though?
Yeah. So, we were there. So, I think, everything in the courtroom finished before, at 11 in the morning. We then deliberated until 5 o'clock at night and had to come back the next morning and deliberated for another 2 hours before we finally gave the verdict.
Do people get upset with each other?
Sometimes. It depends. I tried to be respectful, at least. And sometimes there's just people that have a specific point of view and have zero interest in moving on.
How many guilty people were there that were saying guilty?
So right away when we walked in, there was only 2.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying, and for the Karen Reed case, is there enough peer pressure to make one person just go, all right, the hell with this, because I'm the only one who's saying guilty?
I think that's what generally happens in the end if you have 1 or 2 holdouts.
Right.
the jury is able to sway them in their, the majority is able to sway them. But sometimes sometimes you're not, and then you end up with a hung jury, and that can be, unlike a mistrial, that can be tried again, I believe. So, but I listen, those people have given, 9 weeks of their lives for, as you said, for very little compensation.
Right.
So you would think that they would want to get it over with and move on and get to their 4th of
That's
July.
why I'm thinking there must be more than 2 people who are on the guilty side.
Well, it doesn't matter we get guilty or not. It could be the other way around. It could be.
Or whatever, right?
Right,
But
yeah.
don't you think if they felt like she was guilty, it would have came back quick?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
If people thought what we thought, it would have been over.
But there could be 1 or 2 people that are holding out and saying not guilty.
Like we just said, even if I think you could sway the 1 or 2 people,
It's really hard. It's really, and I can imagine it would probably be harder in a trial of this magnitude. Like, it is very difficult to sway somebody when they are firmly ensconced in what they believe.
based on the little evidence that you guys tell me, it seems like if you're on that jury,
It's different for us though, because if they have been following the rules, then they're not exposed to any other kind of information from anybody outside, any speculation that exists ad nauseum all over every kind of social media outlet, everywhere, every place you go.
Were they sequestered?
No.
No, they were not sequestered.
Then I would highly doubt that there's no way that some of them didn't see things.
Right.
And hear things.
And if it's a hung jury, they have to try it again, or they can try it again. Because how do you pick a jury again? If it's hung and you need to now find 12 more people that don't know anything about this case, that's going to be near impossible.
right? And I think doesn't the DA, the prosecutionist, doesn't he or she have to go, okay, we're going to retry her?
Yeah.
Because once it's hung, isn't she then presumed innocent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I am shocked. I just assumed that this was going to be, I got it. They got it. What didn't they begin deliberations on the afternoon of the closing day?
Yes.
So
I thought it'd be cut and dried.
But I thought, okay, they're going to go home, they'll go to bed, and then I thought maybe even at 9:30 the next morning we would have known.
Prosecutionist. Yep.
And Curtis, you thought not guilty, right?
Right.
So that's my point. A lot of people that are invested in this seem like there's no way she could be found guilty. And the jury is all watching the same thing you're watching. Go back and not. So when it takes this long, doesn't that make you go, there must be more people that are on that jury who feel that she is guilty and they're really fighting,
I think there are, when you talk to people about it, there are people that there's a divide. People who have watched the entire time, there are a lot of them who think that she didn't do it, and a lot who think she did.
Yeah.
Is it that much?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or is
there
it
are.
like 80-20?
Curtis had guys, the law enforcement people texting him left and right about the fact that she
Didn't
did
hear
it.
from them a lot afterwards. But yes, I think a lot of the people in law enforcement were spun, saying that they had all these things that they didn't have.
A woman came up to Santo at Beachcomber as he was putting stuff in the car, and she was really, really nice, talking to him.
Did he put it in the car properly, or did you go back and
Nope.
fix it later on?
Perfectly.
Oh,
yeah,
he
he did a great
Okay,
job.
Okay.
A woman was talking to him, very normal conversation, and as they were parting ways, she said, and by the way, Karen Reed did it. He's like, all right, have a great day. Like, people are passionate, even the ones on the
So
side
you
of
think
that
it's
she
more
did
like
do it.
50-50 in
I
a
think,
sense?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think you just think 80-20 because you're with us.
Yeah, and I hear what you guys, telling me that's going on. Like, there's the only evidence that you guys ever talk about that they say could implement her in any way is the fact that she said said to the first responders,
I hit him.
I hit him. But other than that, what else evidence has proven?
Our justice system would, if it's operating properly, would find her not guilty relatively quickly. There was no evidence when Greg and I were driving back from Bernie's, and we heard the Alan Jackson attempt for a directed verdict. I didn't disagree with anything he said. Nothing the state did in their case against Karen Reed proved beyond any reasonable doubt that she had committed second-degree murder.
Yeah.
Just not at all.
I mean, I think most people who were watching here or there or watching intently every single minute, like Courtney and I and Curtis at times, have formed an opinion either way. I will say I spoke with Craig Breslow, and he hasn't decided yet.